Really?
I remember girls telling me who worked on Longside Market about how they stopped working on that stall because every time they tried to put something on the shelf, the boss would go behind them and grab their tits. This was
Are these Pakistani men,
yeah,
are they?
and this was the 70s, so it was...
But how long has this been going on? And I sent you an article from 1975 in the Rotherham Observer or whatever. I don't know what the paper's called in Rotherham. And it was about a 15-year-old girl who had been raped by Pakistani men. And the phraseology used in this, and the judge basically said she had been very well used sexually. And at the end of this, she had to apologise. She had to say she'd try and do better and she'd try and work hard. But basically the article, almost word for word, replicated what's been happening to these young girls. She was taken upstairs, there were multiple men turned up, raped her or whatever.
Yeah.
She was seen, but she was in this situation regarded as the person at fault.
Yeah.
So this is 1975, Nick.
That was when I was a child, and I remember growing up and girls telling me I don't go into that kind of shop, he's a dirty pervert.
Really?
I remember girls telling me who worked on Longside Market about how they stopped working on that stall because every time they tried to put something on the shelf, the boss would go behind them and grab their tits. This was...
Are these Pakistani men, are they?
And this was the 70s, so it was... I wouldn't have said I knew then about the gang rapes and stuff like that.
But you knew about the attitude to women and young girls.
At that point then, lots of girls on my estate who I knew was telling me that local Pakistani men in shops on the market were dirty perverts and would grope them. So I knew that then.
A doctor working... There was an article by a doctor who'd worked in one of these towns. I don't know, it was Rochdale. Always coming... And he said he's always coming into contact with victims of these rapists. Obviously they come, presumably they will come for all sorts of reasons, psychological, probably even physical damage, I would suspect, given what the horrific things we've heard. He said in his time in this GP practice, they have awareness initiatives for everything, LGBT, BLM, all this crap. He said not once have they had an initiative for victims of this gang rape.
Yeah, and that's follows on from the podcast we did about how many days of the year do we celebrate LGBT crap and how many days of the year do we look at child rape and child abuse. So it was something like 8 days a year is something you could class as looking at vulnerable children, and it was 220 days a year dedicated to LGBT shit. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the NHS, the doctors, don't want to go near this because it's politically damaging. And this goes at the heart of this is why we have this problem, is because everyone is too scared to talk about it and do something about it. We've basically sacrificed over 100,000 children on the altar of political correctness, and we're all guilty for this. Even the ones who didn't abuse those girls were all guilty at some level for not doing enough. Even if we did things and tried to do things, we didn't do enough, did we? Because it's still going on today. We didn't do enough by holding our politicians to account, our councillors to account. We've not been on the streets demonstrating about this. We'll get on the streets about everything else, but not about this. So as a nation, we're guilty. And we need to accept that, look internal about how we're going to change ourselves as well as the nation. Otherwise, these problems will continue.